All right, friends, welcome here, and today we are turning this photo into this photo. What's up, friends? My name is Jeff Heath. I am a photographer and filmmaker from Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Welcome here, and we are going to be editing this photo of these two bull elk who I saw in Sayward a little while ago. They were scruffling, fighting, practice, tussling together. And I wanted to take this photo, which is just a regular old photo on kind of a cloudy, overcast day, and turn it into something a little bit more magical. Now, usually I don't edit photos this extensively and this kind of crazily, but we're going to try it today because sometimes you want to take a boring old photo and wow it up a little bit, and that's what Lightroom and Photoshop and all those things are for. There are obviously some purists in here and online who say shoot the photo as is and just do minimal editing, but sometimes it's fun to get a little creative, and there's a difference between wildlife photography and creating art for people's walls, and sometimes for creating art on walls you got to get a little creative. So let's jump into Lightroom and see what we can do together. All right, so we are going to immediately, if you've never been in Lightroom, this is the panel here. Up top here, you have your controls like exposure and contrast and highlights and all those things. But I'm assuming for most of you, you've used Lightroom before, so this is not an introductory Lightroom tutorial. This is going to be a little bit more advanced for those of you who have been using Lightroom for a while and are getting into wildlife photography and wanting to create prints and things for clients, for their walls, or for yourself, just for fun to learn. So we are going to do that together. So first thing I'm going to do is hit Command U on my keyboard, which this is just kind of a base start for our photo. What it does is just kind of Lightroom interprets what it thinks is the best exposure, contrast, all those kinds of things. I have a couple of presets here that I use from a company called VSCO. They don't make these anymore, but right away I'm going to start with one of their presets, which is their vibrant one. I like that. And I'm going to turn down there are film emulations that they use. So this is a Kodak Gold that it's kind of trying to emulate. I'm going to turn off all the grain on that one. And then next we are going to right away, we want to crop this right in because we want these two elk to stand out together. And what we're going to do is probably crop it right there. That looks great. So this is a good starting off point. I've already denoised this image, so we're already at a great spot in regards to clarity on this image. So what I want to do with this photo is to make it look like it's a beautiful kind of morning, hazy kind of sun morning, that sun morning thing. That's what I'm trying to get at, that technical term, sun morning. So what we're going to do is, first of all, let's start with our masks. This is going to be all done with masks and some colors and some sharpening and all those kinds of things. So let's start right away. We want to make these elk pop out a little bit. So we're going to go over here to our mask and we're going to select our subject. And we are going to, it's done a pretty good job of selecting our little fellas here. So let's just up their exposure a little bit. Let's warm them up just a touch. Next, we are going to choose our linear gradient here, and I want to darken this foreground just a tiny bit. So we're going to use our radial gradient here. We're going to click this button right here to see, so this little eyeball, and we're going to subtract our subjects. We don't want to change them. So select the subject. It's going to remove them a little bit right there. We're going to make sure we see these little spots right here. We're going to add in a little bit of a brush, and we want to make sure that we include this little bits in here so those change as well. See how the legs aren't selected in between their legs? It didn't select that. So I'm just going to select that with our brush here. We're adding that back in. Just here, we're going to make our brush a little smaller. And then just in here a little bit too. Their legs are dark, so it's not too big of a deal, but we want to make sure we're doing this right. There we go. And now we're going to drop that exposure a bit. So right away you can see the elk pop out a bit more. Now we want to take our radial gradient what we're going to do is make the sun kind of, you can kind of see it's kind of hitting its back here. The highlights are kind of from the top and on the right side over here. So we're going to kind of make our gradient pop out over here. Once again, we're going to subtract our subjects. So it takes away them. And now we're just going to bump up our exposure here a bit along with our warmth. So right away you can see those antlers pop out a little bit of warmth in that photo. That looks pretty good like that. And next we're going to do one more radial gradient. We're going to have it come down from the top here like this, and we want to have like a little bit of a glow. So this time we're not going to remove our subjects. We're going to leave it like that, but we're going to bump up the exposure like this. We're going to pop our highlights. Get some of those whites coming in here. A little bit warmer from the top. And then this is the fun part. We get a little bit of dehaze here. So now we're making almost like a little bit of a fog, little mist that's coming in. Make it a little soft at the top there. Hey, just a little PSA. Would love for you to subscribe. So hit that subscribe and get that notification bell when a new video drops. It really does help my channel grow. Thank you to everyone who has been watching and commenting and subscribing. It's meant a lot to me. So thank you so much. Let's just move our light source just a little bit over here. Like so. And what we can do is stretch it out a bit too. So let's just pop this out just a tiny bit. So we're getting some of the trees on the left over here. Now let's do an overall vignette on this photo. So we're back into our masks. We're going to do a radial gradient again. Select all around them like this. We're going to invert it and make sure once again we subtract our subjects. And what we're going to do is just bring the contrast, the exposure down in the edges a bit. Awesome. We're going to go back into our elk here. Let's have a quick look, see if we can pop them out just a tiny bit. I like that. And let's warm up our whole image altogether. So we're going to bring up the overall look of this. Bring up some of our highlights here just a tiny bit. And now let's do some fine details on these elk here. One more mask. We're going to grab our brush. What we're going to do is mask out parts of the highlights. So anything that's kind of brightish on here, we want to just pop up some of those highlights. Some of its back here, on its rib cage here, just on its legs, back here, this highlight here. So anything that's kind of like popping out, we just want to accentuate some of that on these elk. We're not going to do too much. Little goes a long way. Just up the exposure just a tiny bit. You can see that pop, so it's darker, a little bit lighter. There we go. Now what we're going to do is for the overall image, we've removed the noise, and now we just want to bump up the sharpening. So you can see here it's super soft. Now we're going to really bump up the sharpening like so. Some more contrast going in here. So I'm just turning down the blacks. This is all just fiddling around. So a little goes a long way with these images. Let's just move around some of our sun here, see if we can find a better position for it. I think I kind of like it further down like this, kind of more in the middle. So let's leave that there. This one here, we're just going to make some of this fur in the front pop out a bit more. So we're back into that layer that we did with the exposure. Let's make some of this fur pop out. So again, a little goes a long way. We're not going crazy, but you can see some of those hairs popping out a bit more now. And there you go. We are all done with this image. That took us less than 10 minutes to get this image from, we're going to go from this image, Let's reset it here. So once again, we started from here and we ended up here. And I think that's a pretty cool little thing you can do to make this image pop and make it look amazing. So that's it for today. Super quick tutorial for you today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Would love to answer your questions. Again, this is an extreme edit of a bland photo that I did, but just wanted to show you what is possible when you kind of push Lightroom and you can push these raw images to their furthest extent. It's not for everybody, and I totally understand that, but if it is for you, I hope you learned something new today. Thanks so much for watching.
Subscribe, and I'm gonna make some more videos. And if you don't subscribe, I'm gonna kill you. So I didn't mean to say I'm gonna kill you. I just meant I'm not gonna make any more videos.